Hi, I'm Carrie Ann Stout, founder and CEO of Vinco Bar Exam Coaching. In this video, we're going to discuss failing the bar exam during COVID-19. First and foremost, let's not pretend that getting the news that you failed the bar exam is anything other than devastating. You worked really hard, you put in the time and effort, you've been waiting a long time to accomplish this goal, and you found out that it didn't happen yet. Doesn't mean it's not ever going to happen, but you found out that it didn't happen yet. And that's a bad day. There's no denying that that's bad news and that's not what you wanted to hear. Now, let's pile on top of that an international pandemic and a lot of uncertainty about what's going on with the bar exam. And now that bad day probably feels a lot heavier and a lot less manageable for you. And I completely understand that. There's there's a lot going on right now, and finding out that you don't pass the bar exam is hard on a good day, but I think we can all agree that there haven't been a lot of good days recently. And you are probably feeling the stress of this worse and heavier than students who have been in your situation in the past. Now listen, I'm not all doom and gloom. This video isn't going to be all doom and gloom. It's going to be actionable. I'm going to give you some advice and some steps that you can start taking now to kind of get a handle on the situation and think about how to prepare and when to prepare and all of that. But I think it's important to deal with the emotional part of this first, right? Sometimes students say to me that people say to them, "Oh, it's a test. You can take it again." And yeah, that's true at a surface level, but also it's very disappointing. And there's a cost to continue to taking the bar exam, both a financial cost, both maybe a lost wages cost and the delay at the start of your career. And there's an emotional cost to continuing to take the bar exam. And it's very valid and real to be struggling with those things. And so I just find it helpful to try and meet people where they are. And in my experience, and I spend a lot of time talking to people who have not successfully passed the bar yet. In my experience, where they are is frustrated, where they are is upset, disappointed. They feel often like they're a failure personally. Maybe they feel hopeless. They feel like it's not going to happen for them. And so I just want to recognize that that might be where you are today. And I don't want my future planning here, the advice I'm going to give you, the steps I'm going to encourage you to take to make you feel like those feelings aren't real and valid, and they are, and you should process them. And there's a lot of ways to do that. You talk to your friends and family, you journal about it, you meditate, you talk to your therapist, you you write down things that you're grateful for, you focus on your accomplishments. I want you to do all those things. I want you to find a path forward emotionally, and then you can find a path forward in actions through the things that we're going to talk about now in this video. Okay? So know that all of it is real, all of it is seen, all of it is empathized with, and that there are people here to support you through it. And now know that there are some solutions, and let's jump into those. So the first phase after finding out you failed the bar exam, whether it's now during COVID-19 or in any other time, is sort of this information gathering phase. Now that's going to look a little different for you today than it normally does, because part of your information gathering is to figure out when the freak the bar exam is going to be, right? This is varying greatly by jurisdiction. Is it going to be in July? Is it going to be in early September? Is it going to be in late September? I just heard that Massachusetts is thinking about having the bar exam online. That's the first time I heard that as a possibility. So the very first thing you need to find out is, when is the bar exam going to happen in the jurisdiction that you want to take it? First and foremost. Second thing, when is the deadline for registering for it? Third thing, and this is perhaps the most frustrating and upsetting thing I have to tell you in this video, you need to find out who's going to be eligible to take the bar exam. So in New York, for example, they are anticipating being able to test a lot fewer students than usual. And what that means is not everyone who wants to take the bar exam in New York is going to be able to. I don't know what that priority system looks like. I don't know if that means first-time takers get priority, if students who went to school in New York get priority, if people who live in New York get priority. They haven't, as of the filming of this, which is, let's see, what's today's date? As of April 26th, they haven't given guidelines for that I have seen. So you need to find out if you're going to be eligible to take the bar exam in the jurisdiction that you want to take it in. All right. So step one is to go through this fact-finding, information gathering, post failing the bar exam exercise, right? Find out all the information about when and how you retake the bar exam. And then you also, as part of that, want to gather information about yourself. If your jurisdiction gives you a score sheet, if you can order your essays, you want to get as much information about your previous exam as you can, because a big part of moving forward is analyzing what you've done in the past. Next, you want to analyze your previous bar exam experience, right? So you want to go through that exam report, if you have one, your score report. You want to go through and look at your essays, maybe have someone take a second look at them, maybe someone from your school, a professor, someone in academic support, someone from your bar prep company, obviously have, an expert, someone qualified to look at it. Do that and give you feedback. Do a comprehensive review of how you studied the last time. Now, again, this is a little different for you guys because what November, December, January, February of studying looked like for you is going to probably be very different from what studying now is going to look like for you. A lot of people aren't working or working from home and have other things to consider. So you're not exactly going to be comparing apples to apples when you look at how you studied last time and think about what changes you want to make. And that's another way that your situation is a little bit different than in previous years. But you want to evaluate how you studied, where you studied, who you studied with, how you did practice questions, how many practice questions did you do, how were you reviewing them, how were you getting feedback, how were you breaking down the information, right? This is not a comprehensive list, but I want you brainstorming the way that you spent your time when you were studying in this previous administration, and think about what of that worked, what if that didn't work, and what changes do you want to make? And again, not something to run by, someone in academic support at your school or someone at your bar prep company. Finally, you want to start thinking about when to study. Now, this is also very different for you right now because who knows when the bar exam is going to be. So right now we have 3 options still for the bar exam: July, early September, and late September. And so depending on where you are, what jurisdiction you're in, you might have the bar exam at different times. And so I can't really tell you when to start studying. It's going to depend on where your bar exam is and what your personal situation is. So I can give you some guidelines for that, right? If your bar exam is in July, you're going to want to start studying soon, right? It's a little bit early, but if you'll be working during bar prep, if you're at home with your kids, if your time is more limited, you're going to want to start studying in May for sure, early May, right? So yeah, soon. If your jurisdiction is still planning on going forward with the July bar, it's time to get started. Now, if you're not taking the bar until September, it starts to get a little bit tricky. So you have this kind of gap, right? You can't study for the bar exam for 6 months full time. It's just, you're going to burn out. It's not possible. You're not going to be able to retain everything. And so what you need to do is sort of put this formula together of, will you be studying full time for a few months? Will you need to be studying part-time over more months? What does that look like? So if you're taking the bar in early September and you're not going to be working, you're just going to be studying, then you probably should start studying in early July. If you're taking it in the end of September, then you start studying more in mid-July. Now, if you add factors to that, like kids, like working, you start to move that up a little bit into June. I really can't envision unless there's like really extenuating circumstances, someone starting much earlier than June 1st on a part-time basis, because that's where we start to run into burnout. So if your bar exam is going to be in the fall, at some point, you now have this kind of dead time between basically May, right? May is going to be, and potentially part of June, depending on your circumstances. So you want to start thinking about what that start date is going to be and the things that you can be doing in between to prepare, not necessarily academically, but figuring out where are you going to study? What resources are you going to use? Do you need to sign back up with your bar prep company? Do you need to order anything, right? It's taking like 8 days for something that would take 1 day to come in the mail. So you want to be prepared and get your resources together. Okay, so I just want to reiterate that I'm really sorry that you're having this experience. I'm sorry you didn't get the results that you want. I'm sorry that you have to deal with retaking the bar exam during everything else that's going on. But I do hope that this video has given you a few small steps that you can start to take in the direction of reaching that goal. And know that even though you're not celebrating now, you will be celebrating one day, and we'll look forward to celebrating you at that time as well. Please leave a comment or reach out if there's anything that we can do to help you through this process. I know it's hard, I know it's overwhelming, and you absolutely don't have to do it alone. So until next time, be well.